Hi, I'm Stuart Little, photographer and Photoshop educator for littlephotoshop.com. Photoshop Creative have kindly asked me back to create another video tutorial for you, and today we're going to do shiny people, or at least removing the shine from somebody's face. Now shine, or the sort of more technical term for it, specularity, is caused by light reflecting off the subject's skin and obviously bouncing straight back into the camera. Caused usually by a little bit of perspiration, in this case of the groom, because as you can see he's in full Scottish kilt mode and regalia, woolen jackets and things like that, and nice tight ties which he's probably not used to wearing, seeing as he's an engineer, I believe, on a yacht, and obviously his lovely bride there. Now, just to sort of point out the differences here, groom, no makeup whatsoever, hence why we've got specularity, or shininess. The bride, lovely makeup, and which scatters the light, less specularity. Now what my job is today is to teach you how to remove this specularity, but we don't want to remove it completely. We want to have some indication, because we're trained as human beings to look for brightness and also shadows within an image to sort of say, right, that's the bit that's closest to me, that's the bit that's furthest away, that's the darkest, that's the lightest. So we need to leave some specularity. Now to get started, what we're going to do is create a new layer, because we're going to remove all of this brightness, but we're going to do it on another layer so it's non-destructive to the original layer. So if you just click on the new layer icon, we can then call it shiny layer, like so, and that sets us up all ready to remove the shininess. Okay, so to get started, we're going to go to Clone Stamp Tool. So if we press the S key on our keyboard, that's a keyboard shortcut to get to the Clone Stamp Tool. Once we're on the Clone Stamp Tool, we're going to work with a soft brush. So if you haven't adjusted your brush hardnesses yet, take it down to 0%. The size doesn't really matter just now, but it's going to be under 30 pixels because we're going to zoom right into the image. But if you need to increase the size of your brush, use your right bracket key and decrease left bracket key. We're going to lower the opacity because we want this effect to come in gently. So we're going to start off at 35 and we're going to match the flow so that it's pretty much the same setting, around about 35. We then have to change the blend mode for the clone stamp. This is the key feature here, and we're going to change it to lighten. This allows us to clone in the pixels from the surrounding area that we sample, but it changes their density, which just helps blend in the specularity of the shininess. We also need to set up how we're going to be sampling the information, because we have a blank layer here, and if we had just had current layer picked, what would happen is it would just tell us that nothing could be selected because there's no information there. So I tend to go for all layers, although if you're only working with one layer above the original background, you could do current and below, but for safety's sake, go for all layers. So that's us pretty much set up. So all the corrections that we're going to make are actually going to get applied non-destructively to the shiny layer. We should actually call it the makeup layer, I suppose, because we're going to end up creating a matte makeup, and then obviously the original shine is going to be left in the background below. So we'll zoom in, hold down the space bar just to navigate around the image, and I'm going to decrease the size of my brush to around about 9 pixels, and then hold down my Alt key and sample a clean part of the skin, and then just working in a circular motion, I'm then going to start to disguise the specularity. And it's best to sample from different areas, and what we're going to do is just gradually build it up. And if it doesn't look as if much is happening just now, well, trust me, there is. Just bring it in gradually and blend things on top. Now if this is coming in too weak for you, you can increase your opacity, but if I switch the layer off, there's before and there's after. And if we zoom out, you can see at a normal sort of viewing distance, there's before and there's after. It's really smoothed down the actual forehead. Then going to repeat the process for just above the eyebrows, and you don't have to do this much, If you make a mistake, don't be scared to do Command or Control Z just to go backspace a little bit. And again over here. And the trick to doing this is to actually not remove it entirely. You want a sense of some specularity, because if you don't have that and you just make it disappear completely, it doesn't make the photo look realistic. So little hot spots on the nose are the norm. It's kind of what is expected, and unless you're using a really soft and well diffused light source and the subject has makeup on, because this is what they do with TV presenters, they apply a matte powder makeup to their skin and it helps with reducing specularity. A little bit too far there, just going to go back up a stage or two. And you'll see we're pretty much done. So if I hold down my visibility, there's before and there's after, and you'll note there is still a hint of specularity going on. Tiny little bit of brightness here, tiny little bit of brightness there, there and there, because that's what we would expect to see. And if you want to introduce even more, just lower the opacity of your shiny layer, and that will create more or less shine. And what you would want to aim to do, for example in this image, you want to kind of balance up the specularity with what's going on over here with the actual bride. And we get a balance. So there's before and there's after. So just to recap on the tool settings, we were using the clone stamp tool. We were in lighten mode, and I reduced my opacity to 35%, opacity 35% flow. We sampled all layers so that all the actual information in terms of cloning and that was done on the layer above. That just gives us an element of non-destructiveness. It means we could take the eraser tool or add a layer mask just to remove elements, but generally speaking you don't really need to do that. And then we just sampled different areas of the skin around the subject and gently applied it until we disguise the specularity. That's the trick, is to leave some hint of brightness but diffuse it down. If you remove it completely, it just looks fake. So there you go. The best way of removing shininess, in this case from an outtake shot from a wedding, and you'll obviously get more benefit from this if you're using the likes of a compact digital camera where the flash is going directly to the subject and bouncing straight back into the lens. If you're kind of going off camera or off camera flash, something like that, then it's an awful lot easier to control, especially if you're diffusing it with the likes of, or softening it down with a big umbrella shoot through, or with a softbox or something like that. So I'll catch up with you next time for another video tutorial.